Welcome to the Soul Touched by Dogs podcast, the show for dog lovers who see dogs not as toys or tools, but wise souls worth our respect and care. I'm Anke Herman, and I'm your host. I talk to pawsome humans, people who do great work for dogs and their people. So come and join us for today's conversation. Hello and welcome, Christine. I'm beyond excited today.
Oh my gosh, I am too, Anka. It's such a pleasure to be filling so much space with you lately that I think this conversation is going to be exciting and heartwarming, and I thank you so much for inviting me.
I'm like, my heart's already warm. So if you're listening, this one's going to be a little bit different from all the others. So this time I don't have a dog trainer or an expert, but I have somebody who shares the love for dogs. And that's how we connected. Like a friend we both have says, hey, you should really meet Christine. You're both nuts about dogs. And you could literally say the rest is history. And then about kind of 2 weeks ago, I remember the LinkedIn post. And when I get this notification on LinkedIn, Christine Passo mentioned you in a post. I'm like, oh, and all it said in a comment, thoughts. And I look at the post and it was this book project. And initially I was like, oh, that's great. I'm going to share this in the newsletter. And I did. And then I looked at the page and I'm like, ooh. So tell me, did you send this to me with the intention, like, ooh, I really think this is for you? Or did you think initially, like, oh, maybe you know someone who might?
Oh my gosh, that's such a good question. And I love that we haven't even talked about this because we haven't. So I had a call with Lonnie Ray, somebody that we're mutually connected with, connected us about this book, which it's if it's okay, I will talk about it. That
I
is,
would love you to.
yeah, my fur baby wrote this book. And Lonnie, who has published many books in the past, in fact, she has an entire series. And do you remember the name of it?
Rattled Awake.
Thank you very much. This, at the moment, my mind was thinking other things. So yes, Lonnie Ray has published a series of Rattled Awake, beautiful co-authored stories, and she has become aware of the love that humans share with their pets. And it's mostly because of actually one of the co-authors, something that was going on with he and his dog that inspired her to say, we need a book about the love we share for our animals. And so I learned about it and automatically I was in because I suddenly and traumatically lost our Myra, just back here under the blanket there. We lost her on May 28th of this year. So it's been 4 months. And Anka, you and I had a call about a month after we lost Maya because I couldn't have any calls before that. I couldn't talk about it. And so you and I talked. And at that time, you told me more about Kai and the relationship with all of your animals. And so when Lonnie said, hey, do you know anybody else who might want to share their story? The first and only name I could think of, like on the spot, was Anka. And so then Lonnie, I'm like, days are busy, right? Like now I'm thinking I need to write a chapter for a book. Oh my gosh, I have all these other things going on. Lonnie puts out this post and it was a no-brainer. Anka, thoughts? Question mark. And I thought of you to write, but you never know people's schedule. I mean, we were down to the line, down to the wire with this. And I thought, well, even if she doesn't have time, she knows a lot of people who are so passionate about their animals. And it's just an unbelievably beautiful unfolding of events that has brought us four co-authors together. And then, of course, we have a fifth who is writing the foreword of the book. But that nothing has felt more right in my heart aside from being madly in love with my dogs.
Yeah, I feel the same. And when I looked at the project, and when it feels like almost like my body like screamed, you've got to do this, right? And it's like, I want to do this. And then I'm the same. oh, I'm busy, like lots of stuff going on. I'm not going to have time for this, you know, but I so want to. And
Yes.
so I'm like, stop it. I'm just going to allow myself to treat. And I really loved also the way it was structured because I've done multi-author books before. And so there was usually, okay, here's a deadline. I need your chapter by that day. Here are the guidelines. And but basically you had to make time in your schedule to write. So I really love the idea. It's like, okay, we're going to get together on the weekend and we're going to actually get the bulk of the work done there. I'm like, okay, yep, I can do that. It felt, it made it doable. And also that carrot of, oh, she's going to actually teach us something. So, even the idea of improving writing skills, which I find is, well, I enjoy the life out of it anyway. And it's one of those skills that literally, you know, like multiply anything else you do. So I was really keen on that. And that, okay, actually, we're going to get to spend the weekend together. I didn't even know how many people were in there, because the good thing is it's actually just four of us plus Tess who does the forward, right? So it's not this massive group, which I really enjoy.
And, it's so we already knew it was special, right? And then we had this writing workshop, which was Friday night, Saturday, Sunday. I mean, we're talking like 10 hours overall, and which is a lot of time on Zoom. And so I want to talk about how different each of us co-authors are, because we all share that love and connection with our animals, and we want to talk about and we want to share what they've taught us or what they mean to us. And in that, we learn the same thing from each other because this is an intimate co-authored book. And none of us live in the same country, which I also love. So you live in Spain, I live in the United States. Hawk lives in Norway, and Paolo lives in England. So it's like we're all so different. And in that, which that means that even the perspective in which we tell the story is different because culturally we think and feel differently. And and so there is such a beautiful, unique concept to how we tell our stories, yet it's all about love. And somehow there's loss in there, and then there's joy. And it's probably the most unique book I think I've seen in quite a while.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting because we both were saying, "Oh my God, we're like totally exhausted," because it was. I've created a couple of posts, and I always said like, "Oh my God, this is the most emotional thing I've ever written," and it was hard. It was hard to actually kind of get into the groove because I thought like, we have these millions of little moments with our animals and they mean so much to us, right? But like Kai hiding in a flower pot, like how can I talk about that so that it means something to somebody else? Like that I thought was kind of hard, so to like, how am I going to structure this so that it comes alive to somebody else? So there was that. And then it was literally like all this time really a deep dive into the memory because he just passed this April, so it wasn't that long ago. And to be honest, if I'd written about Leo who passed 3 years ago, it would have been the same, So it's just like to digging all that out. It's it's beautiful and it's beautifully painful at the same time. So it was very, I think like after almost like having this crying as a release all weekend. So like come Monday, I was like, oh my God, I need like to catch up on sleep. It felt really, yeah. And then reading everybody else's stories where it's like, oh, and then you keep crying.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, and then that's what was so interesting. So of course, we're spending so much time writing our own story, right? So we're very focused on our language and our point of view. So then when I did, and I finally read, I was able to read your story yesterday and read Paulo's, they're so incredibly different. They're all told from a different point of view from either the animal or from us or a mixture. And it creates such a different differentiation in theme that it's not like reading it's almost the same story and over again. It's like, oh, they had a dog, they were so connected, and the pet passed away. It's not like that at all. It's completely unique. Um, I just it's just incredibly exciting and an honor for me, at least, to be in this space with you and Hawk and Paulo and Lonnie and Ellen. And I really think this is I don't know. I just have a feeling that there's just going to be a great impact.
Yeah. And I think it's this, and Hawk was saying it at some point where it's like, yeah, everybody said, well, I rescued Missy, but like, who rescued who? It's this piece of, yeah, they have so much to teach. Like, we're in the process of looking after them, even in the process of reading them, like, we are the ones growing. I had this massive, massive insight. Like, I was talking to Lonnie, like, it was really interesting because trying to, like, okay, where are we going with this? What I'm gonna do? Like, am I gonna write about one dog or all of them, or like how am I gonna put this together? And so it's, well, we're kind of pretty quickly kind of worked out. No, it's gonna be Kite. And all of a sudden, I can't remember, like, we're talking, and all of a sudden, I'm like, what is it about it? It was about this sense of being misunderstood and misjudged, and all of a sudden, I feel like tears shooting up. And that's like, for me, that's always like, oh, when a real heavy insight lands, comes out to my eyes always. I cried with you, Coach Charlie. and it was like, oh my God, I never understood why I felt so connected to them, because it was literally, it's like, yeah, that was me as a kid. I felt like that. And I'm like, oh, so it was literally this massive transformation for me in the process of even telling the story. So I'm hoping that anybody reading any of these stories, it's always like, like, when you read it, you kind of live it in your own way. You find your own connections to your own life, and if anybody has an insight that makes a difference, that opens something up, then I think we've done our job.
Oh my gosh, I couldn't agree more. And I mean, this is just true in anybody that we lose in our life, whether it's an animal or a human, that we're keen to what they teach us in present, right? When they're here with us on earth, we say, oh, yeah, you're so good at that. I've learned this from you. But when they're gone, we're able to connect. I don't know what it is. Our heart, maybe it's so raw, it's wide open, it's in pieces and it needs to rebuild itself. And so there's something about that that opens us to accepting what else they taught us that we maybe were too blind to see. We're too caught up in life. And that happened for me with when Maya Ray passed also. It was an unbelievable transformation that led me to pivot my coaching
I
practice.
was just about to ask you, because, like, for you, it's really got that impact of your career.
Yes,
Tell us about it.
100%. It's, grief to me, I've been talking about grief for quite some time. I thought I knew grief. And then when Maya died, I I got to know grief on the lowest possible level that I think grief can be experienced. Although I can't say that. It's possible it could go lower, which God help me when that happens, if it happens. But to be taught that depth of despair, really, truly to lose consciousness for what is in front of me for weeks. I mean, that's a grief that a lot of us don't talk about because maybe we're afraid of appearing weak or that people are going to question us, especially with our animals. They love to say, well, why don't you just get another one? What's the big deal? And it means so much more than that. So it really did lead me to focus more on the grief that we all feel, whether it's from end of life or life experiences. And to just open up for people to talk about it so we can name it and help them heal. And that because I'm going through that process and I know what it's like.
Yeah, I mean, that makes it's, I'd be saying it's like, she's proud of you. It's almost like to open this up, to make that conversation, give it a little bit of a broader context. Because at the end of the day, it's like, yes, and I've seen posts of yours where I'm like, oh yeah, that's so true, isn't it? Like, when you lose a job, when you move house, when, there's so many situations where we experience some kind of grief, and we're so used to just shove it under the carpet, right? And the problem is it'll come out somewhere.
Yep. It absolutely will. And, we're rushed by society. We're rushed by the people that are closest to us to move on. They don't realize, they think that, encouraging, well, today will be better than yesterday, and trying to encourage happiness over sadness, that's helpful. And it's not, because the griever needs time to grieve. And quite frankly, it could take years or it could be forever, but that doesn't mean we don't heal. It means that love never dies. And so in a sense, we were always grieving one way or another, and allowing that and accepting it and opening it up to people that we care about will help them feel validated. And they need it most.
Yeah, I love that. Reminds me of one of those short videos, and I saw it, and I don't remember now who it actually was, but basically a way to look at grief that I thought was really heartwarming. They said, well, it's like a heavy stone in a backpack, in your pocket, and basically saying, well, no, the stone will never go away. You just get stronger, so it's going to feel lighter over time.
Yeah.
And I think that's so true, because it's almost like, oh, this is going to go away. And I'm like, I don't think it does. It may
Yeah.
not be top of mind all the time for a long period of time. It could be, it may or may not. And all of a sudden it can come out again, like with full force, and I don't know, what's your take on this? And I know that I'm not the only one, and I felt like a little bit guilty. It's when Leo crossed the bridge about like 3 years ago, I thought, I don't even feel that intense pain when a person dies, but boy, when the dogs go, right, it's just, it just rips you apart. So what's your take on, and I have other people heard like say the same things, like it feels a lot more painful and raw and physically, emotionally, and like it's almost like somebody physically rips your heart out.
Right.
Why do we feel more for animals than for people in your
So,
view?
yeah. So, I'm a strong proponent for saying we don't compare grief, right? So I read an article, a really good friend sent me an article that said studies show that grieving a pet can be as hard as grieving a human. And I said, that's a comparison. We can't compare. Even when you lose one human and then you lose another one, the pain is different. The experience is different because the relationship is different. What you maybe depended on them, what you sought from them, what you needed from them, what they gave to you, everything is completely different. But as humans, we don't live every moment of our lives together, right? Family, maybe we grow up together, but we eventually move out. We're trained, we are brought up to become independent. Our animals are 100% independent on us until the day they pass. So when they come into our homes, they're essentially saying, I need you to take care of me every minute of the day. When I need to go potty, I need you to take me outside, right? When I'm sick, you need to clean up my vomit for the rest of my life. When I'm hungry, you need to feed me. It's not like, with human children, you can have small refrigerators that they can reach in and grab snacks. You really can't do that with a dog. I mean, they are relying on you to take care of them, and that. We accept that. We accept that no matter what, they need to be a priority for the rest of their lives, and even a priority in sensitivity at the end of their life, should we need to make a decision. So there is that connection of every minute of the day that we share with our pets that we do not share with other humans. And so the grief is different. And it's a different pain. It is a heart-wrenching pain, as is losing humans in our life. But it's just different. And, I think there's also something about how much we need to take care of them for every minute of their lives that creates that sense of loss. It's like, I know when Maya died, like, well, who am I going to nurture all this love with now? I mean, yes, with Zoe, but now my heart has expanded. How else can I express this love that now is gone? I mean, we had a little bunny rabbit that started sleeping in the brush in front of our front yard. And we started giving it water all the time. It's like, oh, let's give it a silly name. Oh, maybe, Maya's spirit is in there somewhere checking on us. And then it stopped coming. And it was like, my gosh, shoulders down, sadness. I'm like, all right, well, I just need to care for the bird bath that's in the backyard and clean it all the time and make sure it has fresh water. It's like there's something when we grieve, that we need to somehow replace that nurturing and love with. And it's very intense with our pet. So it's definitely different. Should never be compared. Even losing one pet to another, that grief will be different, right? Um, but no matter the source of what anybody is grieving, honor your own pain. And it's really hard to do, but don't rely on other people to tell you when you need to move on, because that's up to you. And frankly, you'll never move on. You're just going to find how to store that love and that loss in your everyday life as time goes on.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And it's because it's when you say it like that, the idea of, oh my God, this never goes, it doesn't mean that you're gonna be suffering your whole life. It's almost like, no, that rock in your pocket doesn't go away. You just find ways to, make it part of your life so it's not painful the entire time. So I think that
Yeah,
it's just there's so much hope in there as well, and
there is it.
that expansion of love. And so yeah, it's as hard as it is, it has a lot of beauty in it for some funny reason, right?
Well, and you know what? And I think some of us really need to create a purpose out of it, which you
Mhm.
found with Kai and writing your story. That the lesson that you now learned, right, that you figured out and the purpose of it, and then helping to teach other people to see this, recognize it, or maybe, open their eyes to it. That when we can take loss that is so much love and feel healthy enough to create a purpose out of it, that is, that's that rock, but in a positive way.
I love that. So if people want to connect more with you and find out more about your work or simply connect with you, where can they go? Where will they visit?
The best place to go is my website, which is my full name, ChristinePasso.com. Super simple. I have a grief support page that I have up there. I offer grief support on a short-term basis, but then welcome longer-term coaching to continue the healing process. But certainly in the beginning, especially with our pets, there are a lot of people that don't understand. And I'm always happy to be a source and coach to guide people through their grief. So ChristinePasso.com. Let's have a chat. If you're an animal lover, let's just chat.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And I'm going to go and add the book to the end of this once we have it, because it's going to be out in a week. So we're going to append
Well,
it,
who knows? When are you posting this?
well, whenever we want to post it. So I might post it before, or we're just going to maybe, wait until it's out and then ta-ta,
Right. And
actually hold it.
the release date is Monday, October 7, right?
October
So
7th.
if you're watching this after Monday, October 7, it's ready.
It's ready. And so if you're watching this after October 7th, then the link to the book shall be below this video. So, if you're listening on the podcast app, it's going to be in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, it's just right below. If it's in the newsletter, it's right below. So can't miss it. Go check it out. It's going to be a quick read, but just make sure your tissue is ready. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Anka. It's such a great pleasure to share this book with you and to continue nurturing our friendship. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so other dog lovers can find the show. If you haven't already, head over to soultouchedbydogs.com and sign up for weekly doggy cuteness, tips, recommendations, and personal stories to warm your dog-loving heart. And if you know a awesome human you think I should interview, I'd love an introduction. Email me at Anke, that's ANKE, at soultouchedbydogs.com. heartfelt.com.